Business down to speed.
By the way, Donna and James, in order to speak, you have to hold down that button. Okay, hold
It's like
it.
doing karaoke.
We have to push to talk?
You have to push to talk. Push to talk, that's what Jim is saying.
Ah,
Yeah,
Anybody know
so
the Red
push to
Sox?
talk. Right.
The Red Sox, have you? No? Okay.
right.
I was hoping you knew the Red Sox. Oh, okay. Hopefully they're winning.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'd like to reconvene the open session of the Coventry School Committee. If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you could just remain standing for a moment of silence as we consider the work before us this evening. You may be seated. And if Mr. Levis, if you would like to do the emergency exits?
Sure, in case of an emergency, you can exit to the door to my right, there's exit. You can exit to the door to the left. And if you go out to the right, go down the hallway and out the door on your left. If you go out to the exit to my left, go through the office, and then to your right, there's a door that goes to the outside.
Thank you. Mr. Florio, would you do the honor of reading the mission statement for Coventry Public Schools?
The Coventry Public Schools with community, okay, there we go. With community partnerships, educate, inspire, and motivate students to be lifelong learners. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Florio. And just for the public, we had an executive session previous to this meeting for about a half hour, at which point we talked about, we approved our executive session minutes, the superintendent's annual evaluation. We talked about SRP negotiations and an investigative proceedings regarding a personnel matter. The votes taken in executive session were to approve the homeschooling request, and those votes carried unanimously 4-0. And we also approved our executive session minutes of 6/14/18, also unanimously with a vote of 4-0. That being said, is there a motion to seal the records of the executive session?
Madam, here we go. Madam Chair, I make a motion to seal the records of the executive session and that they be kept closed pursuant to sections 42-46-4 and 42-46-5.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to approval of our minutes, which was our reference number 1. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the open meetings, June 14, 2018 meeting as presented/amended.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to personnel, reference number 2. Mr. Levis, did you want to speak to any of this?
Sure. The first action that we're going to take are the certified recalls, and we're going to recall 28 individuals tonight. They're not 28 full-time positions. And what I want to say is that we still have eliminated 21.6 full-time equivalent positions. A lot of these, as they're read off, you'll see some of them one-year-only positions, and many of them are not 1.0 FTE. But we've had a lot of individuals take one-year leaves, and so we've been able, and we still will be able, I think, to bring back more teachers. And like we said, when we said we laid off 42 individuals, we knew that we weren't eliminating 42 positions. So we had retirements. And so I just want to be clear about that we still have eliminated those 21.6 full-time equivalent positions. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. So is there a motion? I'll hold it down for that.
Okay. Madam Chair, I make a motion to affirm the recommendation of the superintendent to recall the following certified staff to positions remaining open after June 4, 2018 job fair for the 2018-2019.
Is there a second on that?
I second the motion.
Okay.
Okay. Lindsay Sweeney, regular 1.0 math teacher, Coventry High School. Michael Smith, regular 1.0 inclusion teacher at Coventry High School. Benjamin Streeter, regular 1.0 Spanish teacher, Coventry High School. Nicole Richards, 1 year only 1.0 inclusion teacher, Coventry High School. Diane DeRobio, 1 year only inclusion teacher at Coventry High School. Kayla Butts, regular .2 French teacher, Coventry High School. Lisa Clift, regular .6 cosmetology teacher, Coventry High School. Caitlin Barbera, regular 1.0 English teacher, Feinstein Middle School. Lisa LaChance, regular 1.0 English teacher, Feinstein Middle School. Scott Tennant, regular 1.0 robotics teacher, Feinstein Middle School. Megan Lockett, 1.0 science teacher, Feinstein Middle School. Diana Slezak, regular 1.0 inclusion teacher, therapeutic, Feinstein Middle School. Kerry Lutchka, regular .5 science / .5 math, grade 6 teacher, Feinstein Middle School. Leah Levesque, 1 year only 1.0 English teacher, Feinstein Middle School. Lee Borelli, 1 year only 1.0 intensive support teacher, ALC, Feinstein Middle School. Cheryl Saucier, 1 year only 0.5 English / .5 social studies, grade 8.
6.
It's grade 6, I'm sorry. Grade 6, Feinstein Middle School. Melania Burton, 1 year only inclusion teacher, Hopkins Hill Elementary School. Brittany Newton, regular, .5 inclusion teacher, Weston Coventry Elementary School. Norman Rosenfeld, regular, .9 music teacher, district-wide. Megan Smith, regular, .9 art teacher, district-wide. Michelle Hicks, regular, .9 library media teacher, district-wide. Julie Marin, regular, .8 physical education teacher, district-wide. Ryan Silva, regular, .6 physical education teacher, district-wide. Susan Lawrence, regular, .6 TVI teacher, district-wide. What does TVI stand for?
Teacher of the visually impaired.
Oh, teacher for the visually impaired teacher in district-wide. Ann Lennox, regular, .5 reading teacher, district-wide. Eric Preston, regular, .4 music teacher, district-wide. Alexandria Austin, regular, .4 art teacher, district-wide. Michaela Reed, regular, .4 library media teacher, district-wide.
Thank you. We have a second. Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to certified leaves without pay. Mr. Levis, did you want to speak to any of these?
No, I just want to say that some of these leaves will allow us to bring these positions back to a job fair and to bring back some other teachers. So we've approved these leaves without pay for another year.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion to approve Kayla Butts?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve a leave without pay for Kayla Butts, .2 French teacher at Coventry High School for the 2018-2019 school year.
Is there a second?
Second. I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to Erin Preston.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve a leave without pay for Erin Preston, .4 music teacher for the district for the 2018-2019 school year.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to Jill Hag.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve a leave without pay for Jill Haig, 1.0 inclusion teacher at Tioga Elementary School for the 2018-2019 school year.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Okay, Kathy Taft.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve a leave without pay for Kathy Teff, 1.0 guidance counselor at Coventry High School for the 2018-2019 school year.
I second the motion.
Any questions on the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to Vincent Turchetta.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve a leave without pay for Vincent Turchetta, 1.0 inclusion teacher at Coventry High School for the 2018-2019 school year.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to certified appointments. Mr. Levis, did you want to speak to any of these?
So, just a couple things. One is, and I should have stated this when we talked about the recalls, that we went through a process, we looked at every position, and we asked ourselves, do we need this position based on either state law, federal law, or contractual obligations? And we were able to state that every single position was necessary, especially when we were concerned about where we stood in terms of the financial town meeting. So we also know by putting recalls, we also save ourselves a significant, $14,000 approximately, because if we had to pay unemployment. So, but I want the committee and the community to know that we went through that process, and the same for these appointments. And the second thing I'd ask, if you're being appointed and you're here at the end, if you could just kind of introduce yourself, and the committee will want you to come up and shake your hand. So, that's it.
Thank you. So can we move on? Casey Grant.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to affirm the recommendation of the superintendent to appoint Casey Grant, regular, 1.0 life skills teacher, grades 3 to 5 at Tioga Elementary School for the 2018-2019 school year.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to Kimberly Plant.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to affirm the recommendation to appoint Kimberly Plant, regular 1.0 school nurse at Allenshorn Feinstein Middle School for the 2018-2019 school year.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to Molly Mata.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to affirm the recommendation of the superintendent to appoint Molly Mata, regular 1.0 physical therapist for the district for the 2018-2019 school year.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to Brittany Resendes.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to affirm the recommendation of the superintendent to appoint Brittany Resendes, regular 1.0 school psychologist for the district for the 2018-2019 school year.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to Jessica Card.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to affirm the recommendation of the superintendent to appoint Jessica L. Cod, regular 1.0 pre-K special education teacher at Washington Oak Elementary School for the 2018-2019 school year.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. So before we move on, are there any appointments here? If you could stand and welcome, come on up and we'll, yes, if you could introduce yourselves, yeah. We don't know you are.
Hi, I'm Brittany Resendes, but a school psychologist for Washington.
Hey, Brittany.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim Plant, school math teacher. I believe it's supposed to be the high school.
Oh. Is it?
Kimberly Plant.
Oh, it says Allentown
Feinstein Middle School.
But it is supposed to be Coventry High School. Do we need to redo that, or are we okay? Okay.
Well, okay.
Mr.
But he,
Anderson, are we okay that we read Alan Sean Feinstein Middle School instead of the Coventry High School?
Why don't we fix it?
Okay.
okay, so,
We may do that again, so, but come by and we'll,
no, hold on, I'll do it right now.
all right, do it right now.
I make a motion
Yeah,
to affirm the recommendation of the superintendent to appoint Kimberly Plant, regular 1.0 school nurse at Coventry High School for the 2018-2019 school year.
Is there a second on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. So thank you for telling us that. You're welcome.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm Jessica Carr, and I'm the new preschool, special ed preschool teacher at Washington. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hey, Tom?
Long drive? Okay. All right. So now we're going to move into the public agenda. And for those, just to let everybody know, during the public agenda, any of the agenda items that we talk about, if a motion's made, the public is allowed to ask questions, comment before the actual vote is taken. So I just wanted to let you know that. Yeah, go ahead.
So we don't, we have a celebration every school committee, we try to start off with a celebration. And tonight, it was pretty brief, but our Director of Finance, Ms. Sarah Mangiarelli, she was, in her first year, she was selected by her colleagues, her peers, for the Rhode Island Association of School Business Officials as the Rhode Island School Business Official of the Year. So I just wanted to, I think we've talked about it, I've shared that out, but I wanted to just recognize Ms. Mangiarelli. She's done an incredible job, and I just wanted to thank you and congratulate you just publicly. That's all.
We won't put you on the spot. We won't put you on the spot, but we do appreciate you very much, obviously. Yeah, really. And congratulations on that award. Of course, I'm supposed to be holding this. Moving on to agenda item number 8, which is the distribution policy, first reading, our reference number 3. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to dispense with the first reading of the distribution policy as presented / amended.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the committee? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Did we have any questions about the policy that we wanted to talk about, or James, did you want to add anything? No, we're good?
Not on that one, as
Okay,
is.
not on that one. All right.
I just want to state that when we present policies, we put them on our website so that the policies are listed under district information. You'll see the policies that, once we're going to put them up for first reading, they're there for review, and we have to bring them back twice. So our next school committee meeting, which is the 26th of July, I believe,
Yeah.
we'll bring this back. So there's opportunity for the public to review it and to come back with comment, or come to one of our policy subcommittee meetings. So just want to state that for the record.
I didn't get organized.
Okay.
Whether, I didn't ask, I didn't ask the public if there were any questions about that before we actually voted, but since you don't have the distribution policy in front of you, it's probably hard for you to ask anything, but is there any comment? Anyway. So moving on to the next agenda item, which is the search and seizure policy, which is the first reading, reference number 4. Before we move, were there any questions about this from any of the committee members?
Just the title.
Oh, the title?
Well, so we call it search and seizure, but it's really, the new title is search of students, student property, and school property used by students. So it's I think it's a much more comprehensive policy that clearly articulates what the school, the responsibility of the school is in terms of personal property, school property. I think it's very clear to educators, to administrators. It's very clear to parents. we know one of the things that we need to do a better job, I need to do a better job, is making sure that people actually understand what our policies are and presenting them in a user-friendly. So I think it's, again, this is just the first reading, and it's posted on our website, but, I want to thank, Mr. Anderson also reviews all of our policies, gives a lot of feedback with Mr. Pearson and Dr. Dixon, so.
So I didn't have any questions. I thought it was very well written. I just had several typos. So, Mr. Pearson, do you want to just take that for your committee?
Yes, please, thank you.
Just send it down here. I don't even know if that makes sense, but I can see what I said. Yeah. So if there are not any questions from the committee, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to dispense with the first reading of the search and seizure policy as presented/amended.
I second the motion.
Yeah, we just did it. Okay. Yeah. Any further questions from the committee? Any questions from the citizens gathered? And again, if you have questions about this, you can go on to the website and find it. That being said, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to the student-operated motor vehicles on school property policy, which is our first reading. Is there any discussion, questions, concerns about this policy by the committee?
I think, similar to the last policy, we've changed the title of the policy slightly. It's now called Student Transportation Vehicles on School Property.
Okay. Again, I just had one, I think I saw one typo, so I'll just hand that
Take that
down.
as well. We have a meeting on July 9th. We can
Okay, great.
I think
address those.
there was one comment that was made by Mr. Hoban, who had indicated, there's a statement in here that if the police see an individual violate a law on, drive one of the stipulations on school property, I think the statement was they shall issue a violation. I think his comment was, we can't really control the police,
Yeah.
so I don't know if that's something that we need to address.
Can be changed tonight.
To me, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I've got way too much paper here. All right, where am I? Okay, are there any questions? Is there a motion on the floor for this first reading to be dispensed with?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to dispense with the first reading of the student-operated vehicles on school property policy, i.e. student transportation, as presented/amended.
I second the motion.
Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to the political activities policy, which is our second reading. Is there any discussion before we move?
I can comment on that.
Okay.
Oops, I gotta push the button. Okay. There were some concerns raised when this came on the
Yes.
agenda previously. Those concerns have been addressed, and I think we're in the clear
Good to go.
as is. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. So is there a motion to dispense with the second reading of the political activities policy as presented and amended?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to dispense with the second reading of the political activities policy as presented/amended.
Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair
I
votes aye.
second the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I am so sorry, I didn't hear you say it. I didn't even ask for it. I just automatically assumed it. Yeah, it's okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I told you I was tired tonight.
I know you are.
Motion carried. Any questions, any further questions from the committee? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. And I just want to state again, all of these policies that, I just want to compliment again the policy subcommittee who have worked so hard on bringing these policies to us in a timely way, long overdue. Really appreciate the work you do.
I agree.
That being said, are we ready to rescind?
I'd like to add to
Oh,
that,
yeah.
though. Thank you for the compliment, but I'd also like to thank, we couldn't do this without the support of the schools, you know,
Yep,
the
the people
staff,
that-
the
exactly.
administration,
Mhm.
everyone,
Yep.
and giving their feedback. every time
Parents
we
have
policy.
come in.
Parents, we
Yeah.
had parents come in as well.
And of course, John.
Yes. So moving on to an old policy that we want to rescind because we already passed a new dress code policy, which is our reference number 7. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to rescind the dress code policy number 5132.
Is there a second?
The second motion.
Any questions from the committee about this? Any questions from the public? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to 13, 2018 school committee meeting dates, which was our reference number 8. Is there any discussion, concerns? Do those dates look good for everybody?
I just-
Yep.
I think they look good. I just want to re-point out something Mr. Anderson had pointed out previously. I don't remember if it was publicly or not, but I believe we're supposed to be doing this calendar in January. So
For
we-
our bylaws, you mean?
Yes.
Oh.
No,
No?
per state law. So we
Per state law.
typically do it 6 months in advance, so we're actually ahead of schedule.
Sure. Yes, we're ahead, that's what it is.
But it might be something worth considering adjusting when we approve our
Mhm.
calendar for the year.
No problem.
Am I correct in saying that, Joe? You are correct. Thank you.
I don't know about you, but I'll never remember that, so I'm hoping that administration will remember that and put it on here. Or maybe you'll remember. Put a little note on your calendar in January, I'll try to do that.
Yeah, don't
I will
bet,
remember.
but I'll try.
I will try to put a note on my January calendar.
Come January,
Um,
the holidays and everything.
Can I just make a comment about?
Yep.
So one of the things, and I think, Mr. Pearson, I think you and I had a conversation, if you notice, we haven't put any locations. I know, we definitely want to continue to use the town council, but I think it was been brought to my attention that we might want to consider going back into the schools also. I think it's important, especially when we talk so much around facilities, to get people back into our schools, but also, I think it's nice when schools would highlight some of the activities that are going on, and we've embraced the celebration component of our meetings, but I think that's something that we might want to discuss further about, and I'm just throwing it out there, just going back into our schools to have opportunities to do presentations, and we don't have to make that decision tonight because school's not in session till September, late August, but just want to bring that to the attention for further discussion.
Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 14, disposition of assets. I'm not sure who's, that's you?
I can talk to that. So, and actually, I don't have anything to bring forward for a vote.
Can you stand?
Yeah.
Sorry, 'cause we-
I'm just gonna stand up now. So what we're trying to do, we've had a lot of staff and teachers reach out saying that they have tons of old textbooks, old equipment, old projectors that they need to get rid of.
Surplus.
So what we've done is we've started collecting lists of all the information that needs to be disposed of. If there's anything that warrants coming to the school committee, we'll bring it forward to the school committee. I've been working with Mr. Anderson on the best way to dispose of it. We're working with Follett, that's a book company, to have them come and take as many books back. It will all be done through central office, so any money that's received for that will go back into the general fund. It's not going to respective departments. A lot of the books are very, very old, and even if the companies will take them off of our hands, that's a benefit for us. So if something meets the criteria, bring it forward to you. Most financial documents need to come to you before they're disposed of, but equipment and books. We'll bring that forward, but we are trying to decide the best way to kind of clean out some of that old inventory that we have, so. That's all for that.
Thank you,
Any
Sarah.
questions for Sarah?
I'm sure I don't need to say this. Secretary of State has a wonderful schedule of document retention.
Right.
Good. You
That's
know.
exactly what we use, yep.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the public for Sarah? Seeing none, I guess we can move on to number 15, which is the awarding of the food service manager contract for 2018 and 2019. Sarah again.
Right, so in your packets, you have a rather thick recommendation from me. Just to give a little bit of history, we made the decision to go out to bid for food service. We had not been out to bid as a district since around 2009. We've been with Aramark ever since. Given the financial concerns that we're facing both in school lunch and the district as a whole, and also the fact that the state was up in the air as to what they were going to be doing with their state program, we thought it was in our best interest to issue our own bid. The bid template and agreement did come directly from RIDE, and that's what we use as our basis for going out to bid. So I did just give a little bit of rundown of a timeline. We issued the proposal, or the request for proposal on May 15th. We had a mandatory pre-bid meeting on May 29th, so the only bidders allowed to submit a bid were those in attendance that day. We had 3 companies on site who did the tour. Bids were collected and opened publicly on June 15th. We received 2 bids, one from Aramark and one from Sodexo. Sodexo did have like 2 different proposals within the one bid package. And I'm sorry, Aramark did have 2 slightly different guarantees, but ultimately the same proposal. Aramark submitted one proposal which included 2 different guarantees, a guaranteed deficit of $34,888 up to the management fee or unlimited, where those were the 2 options. Sodexo included 2 proposals. Option 1 represented a surplus of $6,000 but did not include a vehicle. This was an option that we as a district gave. Currently, the Aramark vehicle that's being used is district-owned property. Given the condition of our vehicles and physical plant, we thought this might be a way to add a vehicle to our fleet. When you purchase a vehicle through a program like this, it's amortized, so it would cost less on an annual basis, but ultimately we would end up owning it, and then we could transition that vehicle that's currently being used over to physical plant. We recommended that they put that in as an option, and if the financial presentation was not beneficial to add that truck, then we wouldn't have made that recommendation. Option 2 was a break-even amount of $0 with a vehicle included. Both proposals represented an increase in meal counts and sales. Sodexo's proposal included a significant increase in participation among free and reduced price lunch, primarily as a result of increased efforts to drive breakfast participation. I did reach out to both vendors going through this process to ask clarifying questions on various items in the proposals. And I should state that Linda Ide, our controller, reviewed these independently. Mr. Levis reviewed independently. I reviewed independently. And then the 3 of us had 2 separate meetings to kind of discuss our reviews. We reached out to Aramark to clarify information on the unlimited guarantee and what that would look like. In short, that guaranteed deficit of $34,888 would be pending any significant occurrences, such as a waiver from the state to allow you to have less number of school days, which would result in less operating days for them. That's something out of their control. That unlimited guarantee wouldn't be applicable in that situation, or if we had a major electrical storm and all the equipment went down. Those are some of those unforeseen circumstances that would have impacted that unlimited guarantee. Additionally, I asked for additional information for their other expenses. There's a category of operating expenses that had a large amount under other, so I asked information on that and received the information back regarding those expenditures. For Sodexo's proposal, there was a discrepancy in the number of hours. Sodexo's proposal under both options includes a 3.5 hour per week reduction, not 3.5 positions. And there was some language conflicts within that proposal that we had to seek clarification. So I've been writing from Sodexo that both of the financial proposals include a 3.5 hourly reduction of their food service workers. That's mostly due to the fact that the Sodexo proposal has a full-time food service manager, whereas currently the Aramark proposal has a food service manager that's shared with Exeter West Greenwich. Sodexo's proposal of either $6,000 or break even would be guaranteed up to the total management fees of $83,000. Additionally, Sodexo has financial incentives to be paid for exceeding the budgeted expectations, and this was something that we did view as a positive, as a motivator to continue to improve the program. I think I went through these. I'm trying to summarize without reading this entire document for you. And I included a financial spreadsheet going through the different options. So the finance director, myself, the controller, and the superintendent independently reviewed the proposals and met on 2 occasions to discuss the analysis. After the review and discussion, all 3 reviewers recommended accepting Sodexo's option number 2, which includes the addition of a truck, a full-time food service manager, and the elimination of 3.5 hours a week for the total food service workers. It would be, as of right now, projected 3 different food service workers, a half hour on one, and then I believe an hour on 2 others. The school lunch program that has operated at a deficit for several years now, and Aramark has been the vendor since 2009. We determined that based on the proposals for increased marketing, new brand coming in, motivation with the financial incentives, that accepting Sodexo's proposal to break even, option number 2, is in the best interest of the district financially. Additionally, this would allow us to obtain another vehicle and to repurpose the school lunch vehicle to a physical plant where there is a significant need. We've also identified some policies and procedures that need to be cleaned up. We thought that having a full-time manager would be beneficial to the district. Our decision was to make financially sound decisions, and really I couldn't in good conscience bring forward a guaranteed deficit given the climate that we're in. Whenever we run a deficit in the food service program, I have to cover that money from the general fund. And as you know, with the amount of layoffs that we've had, $1.1 million of reduction in teaching staff, the general fund is not operating in a position that it can continue to cover a guaranteed deficit in that school lunch fund. We will have the option to renew the contract with Sodexo at the end of the year, or we may go back out to bid, or we may go on to the state bid, which is now with Chartwell's. As I've discussed at several meetings, Coventry Schools does owe a large balance to Aramark, and I've made it clear, regardless of the result of this proposal, that has been a primary goal of mine, is to get that balance paid in full to Aramark. I did meet with the town yesterday as well as the auditors. As it stands, the June 30th, 2017 fund balance in the general fund had enough reserve to cover that. So at the July meeting, I will be coming forward with the recommendations. At the July meeting, we should also have the final balance from Aramark to know the exact amount that's due. So I will be coming forward to make the recommendation that we transfer money from the general fund to the school lunch fund to pay off Aramark in full as soon as that meeting is done. I've told the town, while it's technically the school money, it is the school's general fund money, I also wanted to make sure from a cash flow perspective, because they do have the bank account, that it wasn't going to put the town in a cash flow issue, and also to make sure from a financial perspective that we were reporting all these transactions properly. So I was fortunate that the auditors were on site yesterday when I met with the town, and we have a plan, we have journal entries of how this would all get reported. So assuming that this is the direction that the school committee accepts, that would be the next step, is to make that recommendation.
Any questions from the committee for Sarah?
Did anyone speak to the Aramark workers, the lunch workers, about this?
So I met with 2 union representatives that came in as soon as we received the proposals. 2 stopped into the office. I let them both look through the contract, and we also emailed back to them. I know that they did a thorough review because they were emailing items to point out about some of the discrepancies in the Sodexo proposal, primarily because it did state in one part of the proposal that there were 3 positions being eliminated. But again, on further clarification, that is not the case, and the financial proposals included 3.5 hours reduction. So our school lunch employees are a unionized group. They currently hold a union contract with Aramark. When every new vendor comes in, that new vendor is responsible or has the task of negotiating with that union. So while we're looking at changing a management company, we are not looking at changing the union. And I don't even sit in on part of that negotiations. That's directly with the third-party company and the union. So how those negotiations would play out is not something that I would even be a part of. But I know we have representatives from Sodexo and obviously Aramark here as well, but I don't believe the intent is to, I think the goal is to recall as many people as possible. Again, the proposal They had the collective bargaining agreement. I did request that that be part of the RFP. So that was sent out, so they had the contract. They had the hourly wage, the hourly schedules that we're operating under right now. That's where they indicated a 3.5-hour reduction. That was the only proposed change that I'm aware of in the contract to the food service workers.
Sarah, how many hours does a food service worker put in weekly on average?
So-
What do they do?
It depends on the day. I do have the schedule breakdown. Somewhere in my emails.
Sarah, can you answer that?
It is,
Sure.
Well, it depends. You know, we have benefit level positions that work 30 hours or more,
Okay.
and then there's 10 of us at a benefit level.
Yeah.
And then the rest of us work under 30 hours.
Okay.
And there's 30 of us in the whole system.
Okay. So do you have any idea from today who would get cut? So for example, if someone was at 30 hours, would they get cut and then no longer have benefits? Or
I'm not gonna, so the proposal that I have, and I'm gonna have Sodexo come up here to further
Yeah.
clarify, the proposal I have, it shows basically the different positions.
Yep.
And which hours will be cut. So as an example, I have a food service worker move from 6 hours to 5.5. Food service worker moved from 7.5 to 5.5. This was it.
All right, was that in my thing? I just didn't see it, I guess, I'm sorry.
So to clarify, that would be two benefit level positions that would be cut. My name is Nancy Idaluca.
Yep.
I am the Rhode Island Director. I
Mhm.
represent the workers.
Mhm.
We're obviously here very concerned. I understand that Sarah has a job to do.
Mhm.
I do take a little bit of exception because the fact of the matter is that the management
You have to come up and
companies-
talk here if it's going to be
Okay.
recorded, please.
Hi.
Hi.
Again, I'm Nancy Idaluca.
Yep.
Rhode Island Director for Unite Here Local 26.
Mhm.
I represent the food service workers.
Mhm.
It's, the reason that the room is full tonight is because this, I believe, is what Sarah really believes, is that 3.5 hours are gonna be cut. That being said, it doesn't really sound that ominous, but the fact of the matter is, 2 benefit level positions will be cut because those hours are gonna be cut, because if you don't work 30 hours, then you're not eligible to receive health benefits. In 1998, we had 62 workers. 2009, when Aramark came in, you had 40 workers. I've worked with Sodexo, I've worked with Aramark, I've worked with Chartwell's. It's your decision who you choose to take care of the food service program. But the people that are working are ultimately your workers. Whether it's Aramark, Chartwell's, Sodexo, Service America, Delaware North, whoever it is, they're transient. They can go from one year to another. It's the workforce that shows up and actually feeds the kids, I think, are the district's responsibility. And before we just say, we're gonna eliminate 2 benefit level positions, 30 workers, 28 women and 2 men service your entire district. They feed your entire district. 30. And if you've never walked through a kitchen on a busy day, please, I invite you to walk through, because it's really quite something to see. 10 people are benefit level, 10. And we have to cut those, there's no other money. I would like to know, quite frankly, how much money over the last 10 years has Coventry not collected on payments that just never come, where kids just don't pay? And that has nothing to do with the cheese shaming, it's just a matter of how are we collecting money? How much money? How much money has never been collected?
I can't answer that, and I don't think this is it's a forum to answer that question.
But we're talking about putting finances with the school program, with the lunch program. It's all about finances, it's all about the money, right? So I want you to know, if Sodexo is your choice, we accept that. If Aramark is your choice, we accept that. What we don't accept is increased participation, promising increased participation, but we're gonna cut 2 benefit level jobs and we're gonna cut hours. Because they can barely make it the way they are. This is gonna be a problem. I don't think that the money that Coventry taxpayers pay should be going to France. And if you know, that's where Sodexo's home office is. 8 of those 10 benefit level workers are Coventry residents, Coventry taxpayers and Coventry voters. And it will get ugly, and it is not going to be pretty, and it could be a very nasty school year. Could be a nasty start. We have got to protect our own, and your workers are your own. So please, think about it.
So just to respond to a couple items to clarify, if the school committee wishes to look at the amount of uncollectible funds, I would be happy to go back and do that. My point was looking at strictly the financial operations, and again, we've been guaranteed a deficit of between $60,000 and $80,000 for at least the past 3 years. So even right out of the gate, we're projected to operate at a deficit, and there's absolutely no way that I can move things forward when we're walking in at that. The other thing that we should know, this has obviously been one of the worst financial years that we have ever been to, and I still keep saying that someday I'm going to get up here and present something positive. While we never like to see benefits be taken away from any employees, whether it's school lunch or SRP, you should also know that in your appointments tonight, you appointed 3 teachers at a .4. That drops them below a benefit level. .5 is the benefit level for pension, and it makes it somewhat affordable for healthcare benefits and dental benefits. This is certainly not a financial position that we're in, and I am standing up here strictly from a business perspective, and unfortunately, I have to separate that somewhat from a personal perspective of my feelings on where we are, because I too am a Coventry taxpayer and resident, and I don't like what's taking place in our community as a whole. But we've just impacted some of our teachers, art, music, and the library in that same exact manner, and they are truly the core mission of this district. So again, this is not an easy financial decision, but I had to come forward with something that wasn't a guaranteed deficit and hope that next year will be better. And if it's not, then we absolutely reserve the right to go out to bid and try again.
Thank you, Sarah. Before you sit down, I had one, Chartwell's did not put a bid in, but you.
They did not.
But you did mention they are the state.
They just went to the state bid. So we
And
could,
so they, yeah.
we could technically reach out to them and request them to submit a proposal. My feeling, to be honest, is that they were at the pre-bid meeting.
And they
did the
didn't
tour, they
bother,
had the
so,
RFP, and
yeah.
they chose not to submit.
Okay.
They did in other districts.
Okay.
So I thought
Maybe
that
they.
had we gotten to the point where we determined the need to reject both proposals, then again, we would have contacted Chartwell's again. Or at that time, we would have reserved the right to jump onto the state bid.
Okay.
So.
I just wanted that clarified.
So are there any other questions from the committee for Sarah?
I just have one, and I'm sorry, maybe I didn't hear it, but what was the reason for cutting the 2 positions, cutting the hours?
So,
They've got a full-time
they'll
manager.
have a full-time food service manager that's dedicated here. So my understanding is that they'll be able to adjust some things within Sodexo. Again, when you hire a management company, it's their responsibility to determine how best to manage within the constraints of the union contract and what the mission of the district is. So we will be picking up hours in a different area.
Any other questions for Sarah?
Well, yes, I
Miss-
do.
No, we're going to motion first. Mr. Anderson, did you want to speak to this?
I do. I just want to briefly speak as your legal counsel.
Yeah.
I've been in this situation before in Pawtucket 3
Yeah.
years ago, when Pawtucket was in a similar situation that they had Sodexo for about 20 years. And they went out to bid, and the low bidder in that case was not Sodexo. The school committee, notwithstanding the recommendation of the administration, voted to stay with Sodexo. And that decision was overturned by the Department of Education. So I want to make it very clear to the school committee that you are not the final say on what happens here tonight. It will go to the Department of Education. The contract has to be approved by the Department of Education, and unless you have very good reasons that you can articulate to reject Mrs. Mangarelli, Mr. Levis, and Ms. Ides' recommendation, that you're going to send it up to the state, and the state is going to send it back to you. So I want to make that very clear to you, that you are not, A, not the final word, B, the process that you're going through is a very painful and difficult process. It involves human beings, but it has been addressed before in other communities.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Any further questions from the committee? So are we ready to motion? Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to award the food service manager contract for the 2018-2019 school year to Sedesco under option 2.
Is there a second on that? Yes. So before I call for a vote, were there any other comments from the citizens gathered? If you do want to comment, then please come to the microphone, identify yourself, and please keep your comments to less than 3 minutes, or 3 minutes.
It'll take me 2 seconds.
All right.
My name is Sharon Nolan. I've been a Coventry resident for over 40 years. I've been a food service worker for 23 years. Took me 20 years to get the benefits that I now have. And I really feel bad that if you guys want to take that away from me, one other person, and it's, you know, just to make, I don't know, that's what I want to say.
Thank you.
Hi, Kim Cavallaro, Coventry High School. Been in the system for 20 years. We signed a contract with Aramark, which is good until 2020. So, questions, does this carry over to a new food service provider? And in our contract, it states under 18.9 that hours can't be reduced or benefits can't be eliminated just to make the system operational. So we have 10 benefit level positions in our contract that is supposed to be protected to prevent unnecessary changes of hours. So if you'd like to read it. 18.9.
I think I'm going to let Mr. Anderson, I think if we, in fact, vote positively and this carries, I believe Sedesco would have to renegotiate the contract, the
That's
union
correct.
contract. So the fact
are
that you have a
legally-
contract with Aramark,
Correct. Sedexo is legally required to sit down and talk with the union. And that's a discussion, as Ms. Mangarelli indicated, between Sedexo and the union. It is something the school committee has no role, no say, no involvement.
they don't negotiate it. Thank you. Please. Can you come forward?
Yes.
Please.
Again, Nancy Idaluca. With all due respect, I was involved in the Pawtucket issue, right? Sedexo put in a bid, Chartwell's put in a bid. Sedexo's bid was higher than Chartwell's bid. So Chartwell's was going to sue the city of Pawtucket, and really, quite frankly, quite smartly, the Pawtucket School Committee said, you know what, we're going to get out of this mess, and we're going to go to the state default. Then nobody can say anything, all bets are off, because when you go to the state default, there is no bid. That's the whole point of the state default. Okay, so if my recollection is incorrect, please feel free, but I'm pretty sure that that's what happened. Okay, so like I said, not to be disrespectful, it is your concern. Whatever happens with your 30 workers and whatever company you choose, please, I think you know it certainly is your responsibility. What happens at the table? No. Are you sitting at the table with us as we go back and forth? No. But what happens at that table, you have a very large role in how the company deals with your 30 workers. Sodexo, Aramark, Chartwells, these are invited guests into your community. You have the authority, you have the right, you actually have the obligation to tell them that you want your employees treated properly. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just met.
Sure.
So, stepping aside from the negotiation part that Mr.
Right.
Anderson stated, I did just want to read from Aramark's proposal, just to bring some information to
Clarity.
light. It says, Aramark has developed financial projections using wage rates and staffing levels we believe are appropriate to operate the food service program as requested in the RFP. However, Aramark reserves the right to adjust, for example, wage rates, staffing levels, and work schedules for Aramark employees in response to changes in the actual operating environment, such as decreased enrollment, lower participation, or changes to facilities and service areas.
There's no guarantee.
Thank you. Any other?
I'm Leah Pagnarini, and I have worked at the Carpentry Kitchen for 31 years. And I'd like to explain something about the benefits. There's 10 benefit positions. Not all of them are family benefits. There's a couple of singles, there's several 1+1, so it's not like you're paying for family benefits for a whole bunch of people. And I'm also a cashier at the high school. And I find it deploring about high school students laughing about how much money that they owe. They're joking about it. They come through the line, they put their number in, and they leave. And there are students that owe close to $300 in lunch fees. And a couple of them owe over $200. I think that's deplorable. I really do. I think something has to be done about it, because we are losing thousands of dollars on money that's owed and money that's already spent. The company, I don't know who makes good on these purchases, but if it's costing the town all this money, something has to be done. There's some rules have got to be regulated. I mean, you're talking about high school students. I'm not talking about a little kindergarten kid having his lunch taken away. I'm talking about high school kids. They should have responsibility, and so should their parents. So I've said my piece. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Parents don't go after the money.
I just want to say that we, as a school committee and a policy subcommittee, we just recently looked at our, I think it's called negative balance. And we wanted to wait for this process because we recognize that we have to address it. But what people are really good, what my experience, and I've only been here a couple of years, people are really good at telling us what the problem is, but not being part of the solution. And that's what we're trying to figure out, because I think you came to one of our meetings before when we had our policy around the negative and trying to look at different ways how we're addressing students. And, you know, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. But one thing we can't do, and I hear you talking about the two individuals going to lose out. I don't know if you heard me speak before, and I don't know, you probably weren't at the auditorium, where as superintendent, I had to sit in front of teachers, 42, I mean, for 2 hours, where people came right in front of me and talked about, we eliminated 21.6 positions, which are still eliminated. Some of those teachers, 20 years experience in education, thought they were untouchable. And I try to focus on the positive, right? And it's hard financially in this community. It's hard to focus on the positive in Coventry if you read the paper or on Facebook. And I think the schools have done a pretty good job. We cannot continue to run deficits. We just can't. And, you know, $70,000, $80,000 a year. Food service is supposed to be self-sufficient. We're supposed to be able to make a profit. We're not looking to make a profit. We're supposed to be able to take money. You work in our cafeterias, look at our cafeteria tables. Right? Look at the look at the equipment. We should be able to, in most districts, not Coventry, there's 5 or 6, 7 districts. Many districts, they're able to take that money and reinvest it back in, so that if you have freezers that go, if you need new equipment, right? If you need new cafeteria tables, we're not able to do that. We're losing money. And And, you know, I'm not going to speak for myself, but I'm going to speak for Ms. Mangarelli, I'm going to speak for Ms. I. There's a lot of effort that went into this process. And the finances weren't the only piece, too. We looked at everything, if you look at the rating of these programs. So there's a lot of information, and this isn't taken lightly. Just like when we sat, we took months to identify the 42 individuals that were going to be laid off. Months. Because we do care about people. But we also, next year is going to be more challenging. We know that. We've been saying that. We've been forecasting that. We're going to figure out how we'll get through it, but it's going to be more challenging. So we don't take this lightly either. And we value, we're a people business. Your people, we value what we do because it's all about people. But we have a responsibility. I used to avoid Ms. Mangarelli many a day because when I go in the office and sit down, I'd say, give me some good news. And there would be silence, right? Because every day we're finding something. We think we've gotten to the bottom of it. We hope. We probably haven't. So we do take this seriously. And just like we did before, I hear what you're saying. I listen. But I also have a responsibility to the taxpayers. And by the way, we're all taxpayers. I may not live in Coventry, but we're taxpayers. And this is a very serious situation for us, you know, because we do build relationships with people. You know, we feel like this is something that we have to do at this time, and we may decide next year that we go back out to bid. We may decide that, and nothing against Sodexo, and this is nothing against Aramark. This is a decision we feel that we definitely need to make at this time. And I would ask the committee to support that. But these aren't easy decisions. I just want you to know that. This isn't sitting here, your people, we sit here, I listen to you, I look at you. These aren't, you know, these aren't easy decisions that we make, and I just want to clarify that. So I appreciate the effort that everybody's put into this. And I would, again, ask the committee to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Levis. Were there any other comments?
Hi, I'm Linda Parenti, and I'm also a Coventry taxpayer. I am a food service worker. I have been one for going on 26 years now. And I've been through 5 different companies myself. And it's, if I can remember correctly, I could be wrong, correct me if I am, when every company took over, it was the recommendation of the committee to tell the company, you have to take our people, and you gotta leave the contract alone. Why is this one so different?
I've sat on school committee for 16 years, and I know every time we did change, and I think I've seen 2, this might be the
I've been
3rd change.
5.
So I was always under the impression that the food service company dealt with the union and the contract. And things may have changed, maybe sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. So I don't believe that's true. They didn't just accept the contract from the other company that had been
We've never
negotiated.
had a problem, we've never had to renegotiate, we never had to do anything until the time was up. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what that means. Any other comments?
I just feel that there should be respect to seniority. And if there's going to be changes made and hours reduction, it should go in order of seniority. It shouldn't just be cut at benefit level, just because that's where your bigger bucks are. You know, I just find that extremely unfair.
Thank you for your comment. Any further comments before we vote? Seeing none, is the committee prepared to vote?
Yeah.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Florio?
No.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 3-0, 3-1. Moving on to agenda item number 16, F19 budget update and discussion.
Increase in the salary benefit line. We will still have to go back to the salary. Kindergarten numbers are coming in high, so if we have to bring back another kindergarten teacher, that will change, how we move forward. So as far as the staffing goes, once we have all the job fair information entered in for the teaching staff, We'll review where those salaries come in once we determine if we have to bring back a kindergarten because they're at cap, which I think is the direction that we're going. Then we will see where we kind of land with some other areas that are open right now as far as salaries and benefits. But everything else has pretty much remained the same, again, with the adjustment of the appropriation. So I don't know if the committee wants to vote on this tonight and that would be the budget going forward, or if it's something that you feel like we need to wait until after tomorrow. I'm not sure. Okay.
My position is that you were
We
given an
have
appropriation
budget.
by the town council, by the financial town meeting, and that you can reconcile your budget with the financial town meeting.
Okay.
So at the July meeting, I can bring back the full detail. Again, the big packet of detail didn't change, all the
Right.
different programs and
Right.
subjects, that didn't change. So really, the piece that we'll need to bring back is the personnel by subject
Okay.
and location.
Okay. Any questions for Sarah? So would you recommend us voting on it?
Yes, that you
Okay,
reconcile the bottom line with what the voters approved
Is there a
at the financial
motion
town meeting.
to approve the F-19 budget update just provided to us by Mrs. Mandel?
I make a motion to approve the FY19 budget update as presented by our financial director. That's it.
Is there a second on that?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, any opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries 4-0. Moving on to, is it superintendent's?
Yes.
Moving on to the superintendent's report, Mr. Levis.
So if you look at reference number 9, I had Mr. Coward put together, it's an enrollment update. It's predominantly, right now, it's the elementary, just to show, because as Ms. Mandrelli indicated, we may have to add 1, maybe 2 elementary positions at our July meeting. Enrollment changes, and Mr. Coward put a nice little synopsis in the bottom, but enrollment changes daily now. We have students moving from building to building. Conversation with a parent today that is living, moved, bought or a different house in a different district, hasn't registered the students. So I just want to be clear, it's very fluid, but you'll see there's several classrooms that are closed, and you'll see that in terms of our kindergarten, we definitely have to add 1, potentially 2. Again, we will come back to you at our July 26th meeting. But I wanted to give you just kind of an overview of the numbers in the classes, and we reduced the, again, to cut those 21.6 positions, we looked at reducing wherever we could. So while there may be some numbers that are 17 or 18 or 16, we couldn't combine those if there were 2 classes. Obviously we couldn't combine to 1. If there were 3, we couldn't combine it to 2. And we also have to look at if students are displaced, where do they go? In that school, do they have openings? So there's a lot that goes into it. Again, we'll update this at the next school committee meeting, but I wanted to share that with you, and I know, Mr. Fleur, that's the format that you had asked for, so.
That's nice.
So we gave it to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Levis.
You're welcome.
This is nice.
Mr. Levis?
Yes.
Could I just ask a question? Are you going to have the same type of thing for the high school and middle
Well,
school?
the high school is, I think as we presented last year, it's a lot more challenging.
Yeah.
So I'll present it the same format we had last year, but it's not as.
Yeah, not
because-
like this, but,
Well, we'll definitely have the
Just the
numbers.
numbers, just
Career
the
Tech
numbers,
also.
okay,
I'll bring
thank
that
you.
forward. But right now, that was, I think what I would have given you just a large
No,
bucket number.
I
So
understand that perfectly.
Okay, sounds good.
Um,
Thank you for that.
School safety update, I said we discussed that. 2 things. One is that I'm waiting for the town to meet with us. The colonel wasn't, I'm going to ask him to come to the next meeting, and we'll talk about this report that we had, Secure Our City, that talks about the different areas that we need to improve in our schools. And I also had a parent that works for a company that does work with school security, and I'm going to set up a meeting with them. And our goal, when we started this process, was to work with the town, the police, and all the municipal buildings, and put a proposal together before the town council in terms of some of the recommendations. This Secure Our City is the same company that has been hired to put together the proposal for the new police station senior center. So I hope that I have more direction by July 26th. Working with the EMA and the Assistant Director, Ray LaPrade, they did submit a proposal for a grant for about $400,000. I don't know exactly what that entailed, but it would cover some of these identified items for both the school. I think it was the most that they could apply for. But anyways, we'll continue to follow up on that, and every school committee meeting address that. And we've had, we brought before you, we had Kevin Frizette from Goodwill come. We have Goodwill bins at several of our schools now. And they just placed the bin at the middle school that was requested. Hopkins Hill is the largest grossing bin in the state. We haven't had any issues with refuse. I just read in the paper where West Warwick's considering not having these bins because people are dumping. Goodwill's been fantastic. If we call them, they're out there that same day. So I was approached that Western Coventry would like to have a bin. So I just wanted to, I think the way we left it, Goodwill does everything that they need to in terms of securing the permit, and they will take care of that. I just said I wanted to run it by, and this has been on the agenda for about 3 school committee meetings. We just haven't gotten to it. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, that we'd like to put one at Western. And then the last thing is just summer work, just to acknowledge, I say this often, we talk about cutting our facilities, our maintenance staff, over the last 10 years has been cut by at least 10 individuals, maybe 12. I get those numbers confused, if it's 12 years, 10, or 10 and 12. They have a lot of work to do. People still take vacations. We have large buildings, they're old buildings, they're starting, as we speak, they're in, if you go in the buildings, they're emptying out, doing floors. They have to work around individuals in the buildings and programs, and I just want to say they do an incredible job with what we have. And what I'd like to do, just to recognize them before the school year starts, where we could actually just take tours, just to validate. We won't have to go through every school, but just to validate the work that they do, because we appreciate everything that they do. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention. So that's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the superintendent from the committee? Anything from the public? Okay. Number 18, chairperson's report. I have nothing to report, so we can move on finally to citizens' comments. Are there any comments from the citizens gathered? Seeing none, is there a motion to schedule our next meeting?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that the next meeting of the school committee be scheduled for Thursday, July 26, 2018, at 7 p.m.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 4-0. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:22 p.m.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 4-0. Thank you, everybody, for attending.